I've been wanting to paint more animals in gouache lately. I love nature, especially animals, and there's something so relaxing about painting. So I thought this would also be a perfect session to recharge my creativity. Maybe you'll find it recharging too. Perhaps as a soothing art video to put on the background while you work on your own projects. Or maybe it'll just be something fun to watch while I paint from start to finish. Let's start with one of my favorite animals, the Musk Ox. A couple years ago, I got to see a pair in person and I took several photos, mostly for sculpture reference. Most of these pictures try to document details or shapes from odd angles, which are really helpful for sculpture, though not always interesting as painting reference. And then I had this one that is pretty low quality, yet I felt there was something there if I used the photo merely as a starting point and make adjustments to the composition, essentially creating a new scene. And that's what the sketches explore. They were different ways to mentally edit the photo into something more interesting. I've been thinking about that a lot since reading Suzanne Broker's The Elements of Landscape Oil Painting. That book was all about realistic painting, yet a recurring theme was how often artists edit reality to create a more interesting painting. The results aren't copies of photos or even copies of real life, yet they feel real. I took drawing courses that were very focused on drawing from life with a high degree of realism and accuracy. So this idea of creating something realistic looking that is actually edited by the artist has really stuck with me. Suzanne's book made me rethink my sculptures, my landscape oil paintings, my gouache wildlife, my observational sketches. Basically, it's impacted more than what the book set out to impact. Instead of simply asking, is this realistic? As I attempt to create realistic art, I now also ask, and is it interesting? This all means that for this painting, I want the ox to generally feel realistic in the rendering of its anatomy, or the lighting that creates a sense of form, or my brushstrokes that give a feeling of a thick woolly coat. I'm striving for lifelike rather than perfect accuracy, and from there the painting can swing into more abstract expressionism or impressionism if I wanted to. A large reason why I'm so open to exploring different ways of painting reality and just seeing what I can make is so that I explore a wide range of techniques and processes. With time and experience, that will let me develop my own style or combination of styles. Learning different techniques is a huge part of it, and that's partly why I gave gouache a chance again. If you saw my gouache horses video, those are some of the first attempts with gouache in over 10 years. It was also my first serious attempt at gouache, making sure I knew everything I needed to know in order to give it a fair chance. Prior to that, my very first experience with it was as homework for a color theory class, and I really struggled with gouache at that time. I think the horses project really helped me figure out what I was struggling with, and now that I really like gouache, I'm trying to see what else I can make with it. It's also a really versatile media, as there's so many different techniques that can make it look more like watercolor, like acrylics, or oil paint. And it's gouache's ability to mimic oil paint I find most fascinating, as that makes gouache a great media for prototyping larger oil paintings as a small study first, or as a plein air substitute for oil paints. I find the idea of the fast-drying qualities of gouache easier to pack up and move around when I'm outside. Since I can reactivate the paint, I know I can just get it wet after it's dry and keep painting later, just like watercolors. That makes gouache appealing over acrylic paint, which, if the acrylic paint dried in my palette when I'm outside, well, game over. Gouache's suitability for plein air painting is something I'm hoping to build up to soon. By the way, if you have any questions about my painting process or the tools and supplies I'm showing here, just let me know in the comments. Also, speaking of favorite animals, I'm curious, what's everyone's favorite? Or are you like me and have several favorites? Art has been with me for a very long time, and for some media, like photography, drawing, design, and sculpture, I've known for years what my style preference is and what it takes for me to create exactly what I want. And then there are the arts that are newer to me. Painting is something that I did off and on as a kid, but I never actually set out to paint intentionally or really learned how to paint until the last 5 years or so. I have to remind myself that comparatively, I'm a newbie to painting, and so I want to give myself as many opportunities to simply paint and see what happens. By the way, if you want to check out my other art, I have several videos about printmaking, painting, drawing, and sculpting a variety of animals. While horses are a staple, I'm working on more projects and videos sharing other animals as well, much like this video. I'm regularly juggling multiple passions as an artist, and if you're interested in watching that journey, I hope you'll subscribe. So let's try the next painting. In the spirit of just exploring and seeing what I can make, I also brought out my pearlescent opaque watercolors for the underpainting. Later, I mixed mica powders into my gouache for subtle metallic sheens. Using pearlescent paints and mica powder I found effective in oil paints and acrylics, especially for naturally shiny animals. Think of a well-groomed horse in summer coat and how parts of their coat can be very shiny and almost metallic. Cold pearlescent paint or mica is really great for capturing that shiny glow in the summer coat of a bay horse, for example. By the way, thank you to everyone who watched the gouache horses painting video. And also thank you to everyone who watched all the art videos that aren't horse sculpting. I've always been juggling different art passions over the years, and for a while I had separate art accounts for them. It's been refreshing to close those out and just focus on sharing everything in one place. The horse sculpting videos aren't going away, of course, yet it has been so nice to slowly start sharing more of my personal projects in different media and with different subjects. So I appreciate all of the support so far, and I've been seeing a lot of new folks in the comments too. I think I've probably grown a wider audience this past year or so, and so I'm curious. Are you an artist? Someone who just loves art? What brought you to the channel? Speaking of painting more than horses, I love painting animals that are very different than what I'm used to, and what better creature than a jellyfish? I'm used to sculpting and drawing animals with bone structures, so this creature is so strange to paint. And then there's the translucent nature that I've never drawn or painted before, and which also makes them fascinating to look at. I always try to pick a project every now and then that puts me out of my comfort zone, and this did just that. But in a good way. Like, imagine eating food you've never tried before, but it's yummy. It's like that. I do find it a little tricky to mix mica powder with gouache and keep a nice metallic sheen, and I think it's because of the matte nature of gouache, whereas my oil paints and acrylics are both semi-glossy. Semi-gloss really deepens the shine of pearlescent and mica powder. The matte of the gouache sort of knocks back that glow, and I really wrestle with that. Plus, I'm still getting used to the unique advantages and struggles of gouache, so this is extra challenging. Water is also a tricky subject to paint, and this is where transparent media can really shine. I think using thin washes of both the gouache and a little bit of watercolor helps create a little of that, and at other times the opacity of gouache makes it really challenging to paint this rather transparent animal. I think I could have done a better job at rendering that transparent nature with better washes and water control, as this painting feels a little too opaque and maybe a little flat. That's okay, I'm still learning. I'll get there. That's the beauty in art just for practice. Even when it falls short of your goals, it lets you know exactly what you need to work on next. And that's immensely valuable. Also, I think it's important to give ourselves permission to be beginners and just make art for the sake of it. Because, after all, it's recharging. And there's just something beautiful in our ability to take a thought in our head and turn it into art that is tangible for others to see and experience too. I hope this brought a little comfort today and maybe it inspired you to pick up a paintbrush or any art tool of your choosing. If you enjoyed this, maybe consider commenting and sharing, and if you'd like to see more from the sketchbook, you might enjoy my sketchbook tour video. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye!